All right. So my name is Romancia Shoonga. I'm the acting executive for marketing, corporate communication, and client management services. My role at BIPA is really to raise awareness on the registration of businesses, the maintenance of businesses, as well as the registration of intellectual property and the maintenance of intellectual property. So what we then do is we drive our narrative around raising awareness, helping Namibians understand, if you want to trade in this country, what does that entail? If you want to protect your intellectual property, and by that we mean your trademarks, in other words, your logos, your company names that you want to protect, for example, Coca-Cola, your geographical indicators, for example, rooibos is endemically South African, right? That's a geographical indicator. Another good one is champagne. The sparkling juice, it's protected by France. No one else can call their sparkling juice that's fermented champagne because it's a geographical indicator that's protected by France. So Namibia has the same. And there's so many Namibian products that we can use to actually protect if we once we register them, but it can only be done once the registration takes place. There are some things, there's even the way of doing things that we call the utility model. You protect that. You can even do an industrial design. You can protect how you do something. It's called an industrial design. A lot of corporate companies do that. That's why Coca-Cola can only be called Coca-Cola, and only Coca-Cola can make Coca-Cola. So these are all genius ideas, creative thoughts that people created, put together, wrote down, and then registered to protect. And that's what we do with intellectual property and business. For a business to trade, and for any other business person to partner with another business, trade in a country, one thing that we must understand is that the economy of a country is based on its trade. In other words, when we talk about trade, we're talking about the exchange of goods, the exchange of services. The flow of money in the market starts and begins with businesses, right? Whether you're offering the service called electricity availing, right? Whether you are selling water, whether you are cooking food for people to buy, you need to have a business, or you need to have an enterprise that facilitates that trade, because the business is the third person. So you register, for example, Romancia CC. Romancia CC does catering. Romancia CC needs a shop to get the raw goods to produce the service that people consume, correct? So for a business, for an economy to thrive, you need businesses. And it's so important that all businesses, whether it's the one now renting out the table to Romancia CC, or whether it's Romancia CC offering the food to the consumers that buy the food, or it is the trailer that Romancia CC then buys from, for example, the trailer company that sells cars and goods like that, to make and establish and run the business. The fact is, an economy is built on the individuals that run businesses. So it's very important for us to create and build and maintain credibility in our economy by supporting the registration and maintenance of businesses, because it's how our economy runs. Let's look at a mine. Mines are very big companies that employ a large group of people, right? And these mines then avail a form of subsistence to its staff members. These people then invest in buying food for their households. These people also buy houses to host and sort of have their families live in. And it's because this business exists and offers services to the country. The money comes in, and these people, you then use the money in other services like buying food, paying for rent, water, electricity, paying for school. That's how money flows in the country. So it's very important that entrepreneurs register businesses, because then we can actually maintain the flow of cash in the country and support our own industries. So registering businesses is important, maintaining businesses is important, maintaining good standing is even more important, because it gives our economy credibility. So every business that trades ought to be registered. Of course, with the caveat of vendors and whatnot, because again, these people trade in a market that is to some extent untaxable. However, it's so important that we maintain our economy and that we can keep track of the type of industries that people are trading in. It helps the government drive policy that supports these industries. For example, when we're looking at the creative industry, a creative is a business. It's also an intellectual property business, right? And intellectual property globally contributes quite a large portion of global revenue, right? For Namibia alone, I mean, in the world, I think the creative industries contribute about 3.4, if I'm not mistaken, about $4 billion to the global economy, right? That's a lot of money to have flying around. That's a government budget vote, correct? So it's so important because, and let's look at the creative person. For example, we're looking at an artist, a singer-songwriter. This person is registered as a business in terms of singing and songwriting and live performance, right? So this person's music is protected by copyrights. The person's name is protected by a trademark. No one else can trade in the same sector in that country under the same name. And that's how we want to protect and drive and encourage and maintain and support businesses, right? There's a business element to things, but there's also the creative side of things, which is where the intellectual property comes in. Let's look at a manufacturing business, for example. And we're so excited because, mining is the next best thing, especially in oil and gas. But there's also another thriving sector, agriculture. So a farm, right? A farm is a farm, right? Whether it's commercial, private owned, or communal, meaning it's in one of the reserve areas, right? And we're talking about the old Bantustans, for the lack of a better description. Producing food on that farm requires that you get an input in some way or form. So if you want to approach the agri-bank or any commercial bank for finances in agriculture, you will need to be registered as a business. So what are you registering? Are you registering the property that you're farming on? And some people do that. Or are you registering the business that's going to invest money into the toiling of that land? And then you create a brand, which you then protect by trademark, and the logo, which you protect by trademark. You get your produce and you sell it to an AMTA, you sell it to a spa, you sell it to a ShopRite, right? So you see how the business side of things run with the intellectual property side of things. And that is really why BIPA exists. We're really here to really drive home the narrative and the understanding that we register businesses. We maintain businesses. In other words, if there are changes to your company, whether you sell the business and you change ownership, whether you change your physical address, now you've bought a private farm and you are now the business is now going to own that farm. That is completely up to you as a business owner. But the bottom line really is that we register, we maintain, and raise awareness on business registration and intellectual property. And it's so important that people are in good standing as businesses, the same way we maintain good standing with your NAMRAs, your City of Windhoek, your social security. BIPA also has a good standing. Same with employee equity and all of that. We need to maintain that consistent good standing across the board. Why? It makes you a credible business, especially now that the world is becoming an international village, basically, meaning that the boundaries that we had that divided us before have now are becoming more blurry. So you can actually engage with people from anywhere in the world. So your export, you can become an exporter of goods. For example, you can become an exporter of fruits. You can be an exporter of ombeke oil. You can be an exporter of marula oil. You can be an exporter of ombe, and these are probably fruits and products or oils that you only get in Namibia. So you register your business and that is what you are trading in. Then you get an investor that wants these things at a commercial scale. Now you grow your business and you start buying the outputs of all the other villages around you to meet the output target, right? You now create a brand, you protect the brand, you protect your oil, you start doing those NSI tests so you can get ISO protected and the standards and whatnot. Guys, all of these things, they play together, they come together. It becomes one organism, and this creature that we are building, we give it a name. And that's the way the trademark comes in. We give it a look and feel. That's your trademark. Now, how we processing it now becomes our industrial design. How we purify the product. Now we grade them by purification levels, for example. And that's how the organism that is our economy now, and this little product that now has joined the organism sort of takes shape and starts becoming something that you protect and guard, and you lobby for, and you drive industry conversations around. But it all starts with the incorporation of the business at the first point, and that's where BIPA comes into play. We really host BIPA is like the home affairs of businesses. When you are born, you come to BIPA, the business. When the business is born, it's the BIPA is the hospital and the home affairs. We must be documented. And when you want to deregister the business yourself, when you want to close the business down, you have to come back. The same way when someone dies, you have to go to home affairs. So that's really what BIPA is. So we are here to maintain that information. We are here to protect that information. We are here to help you start. We're also here to help you close off. And that is both on intellectual property and business registration. In terms of business compliance, ultimately compliance is really that you as a business owner ensure that you are in good standing with all institutions or all sectors that you report to. So for example, if it's a tax compliance issue, you make sure that you are in good standing and your taxes are submitted timeously to NAMRA. So compliance in its generic sense and form is basically saying that Romancia CC as a business is up to date and on par with all the requirements that are expected of this business for it to trade in the market. The reason why that is so important is so that when a bank requires that this business submits any kind of compliance information, whether it's tax compliance, social security compliance, building compliance, for example, they're doing some kind of renovation at the building, so you got a banking loan and you need to get clearance from a building inspector from City of Windhoek, for example, that has been taken care of. What that means to any of the regulators is really that I am doing what I'm supposed to do. I have evidence that I am in good standing with anyone and everyone. And that's very important because if any need is required of this business or from this business to its regulators, the regulators are confident to say this business is credible. This business we can actually lobby for in terms of maybe value-added services or submitting certain policies or inputs or two policies or national strategies to accommodate the specific sector, for example, because say for example the building sector or the construction sector has a 90% compliance rate. People are up to date with everything. People have paid everything. People have, all of that. So that's really what makes compliance so important in any country. It also means that, for example, if you want to do business in another jurisdiction, in another country, you have all your documentation that says that this person is a credible business person. This entity is a credible business. It's trading very well in this country. It's kept up to date with all of its responsibilities and requirements. Please do support this business in its registration in another country. So that's really the importance of compliance. And I mean, it also gives investors, it gives investors confidence so that if investors want to support a certain sector, they can do so because you have verified that you have met all of your requirements in terms of trading to make sure that anyone can invest in you. People can rely on the documentation you've submitted because it is a true reflection of your situation as a business. That's the purpose of compliance, really. So in terms of challenges observed with businesses when it comes to registration, I think the big thing is really that there is a certain level of ignorance, and I will say ignorance, not in the sense that people are ignoring anything, but that there's no awareness. People don't know where to go when it comes to knowing what is required when you want to register a business, number one. Number two, what the requirements are to business registration. And number three, what their legal responsibilities are after the business is registered. So from a BIPA perspective or BIPA portion in terms of the law, we have observed that a lot of our stakeholders don't quite understand what it means once you've registered a business. We still want to individualize the business in the sense that a lot of people might not even open a separate bank account for the business. They will trade in terms of registration with the founding documents, the documents of incorporation, but they will then have the funds be paid into a personal account. And that is actually wrong from an accounting portion, from an auditing portion. If you register a business, you must open a business bank account. That's the one thing. Secondly, when it comes to registration of a business, people don't quite necessarily understand that you need to be very mindful of the people you go into business with. In other words, we are 15 years old. We're a group of 6 friends. We registered the business together as 16-year-olds. Our parents signed for it. Somewhere along the line, we maybe fall out or whatever, and now in that moment or in that bout of emotions, you then want to remove the people that you're in agreement or not in agreement with, but we are all members of the company. Now having to get a hold of these people that you're not talking to, or these people that you have now, the relationship has deteriorated, becomes a problem. Because why? There was no contract or clause when we registered the business together to say, in the instance where we fall out, we can then remove the others by this or that. And these kinds of contracts are so important because in global best practice, this is what a lot of companies do. They have a pre-incorporation contract that tells them what the business will be, what the business will be doing, how the business will be run. So if we are 6 friends that all equally own the business, who then becomes the operational head? Who actually drives the business direction of the company? So when we fall out now, that is usually where a lot of friends fall out, a lot of relatives fall out in terms of the managing of the business or the business, the direction of the strategic direction of the business, things like that. There's no document that guides that. And now there's sort of an assumption that BIPA must have the final say when the law says these things need to be cleared in court. Now we can't afford to do it in court, but we didn't think about it in the beginning that, when we fall out, what happens? So the biggest issue with that is really that we as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as aspiring business people, we do not think through our decisions before we act. We just incorporate for the sake of that. The other thing is really also that as business owners, at the point of maintenance, we forget that we have a legal responsibility to pay an annual fee to BIPA for the maintenance of the business. And that's where good compliance comes in from a BIPA perspective, because it's so important that you submit and make that payment, because what you're saying is this business is still the same name, the financial year end hasn't changed, we are still the same owners. This is how we are confirming that we are still the same owners by making the payment. So those are really the key things in our observation. Another thing is also, people don't quite understand the legal side of running a business. For example, you want to register a business and just do the business, but people are not doing homework about how this business is supposed to run in the sector that we want to run it. For example, people in the food business are not everyone is very mindful of the fact that you need to maintain certain hygiene standards, to be a credible food vendor in the catering market, for example. Another example is if you own a building, not a lot of people put money aside in their financial planning for the maintenance of the property. That only comes after the fact. And even then, now you've put all of your money into constructing the building and getting tenants in. But there's no planning towards the maintenance. And so it's the same with the business when we start. We really think about how the business is going to run from a getting profits out or from a profit-making perspective, but we're not necessarily factoring the maintenance of the business itself as something to maintain in a business. So it's really one of those small things that business owners must, and any aspiring entrepreneur ought to think about already before the business starts. And that when we register a business, the intention must always be to run the business on a daily basis. So it's quite important also to know and to remember that you cannot do catering and cleaning services and, for example, construction services, and then also mining. These sectors are too far apart. When this business gets registered, the question you must ask yourself is, once I get my founding statement, what is it that I'm going to do from that day onwards with this founding statement? How am I going to trade? Is it going to be catering? Am I going to be a cleaning business? Am I going to be a mine, whether it's a small mine or a big mine? Or am I going to be a building contractor? These are the things that we must ask ourselves so that we can acquaint ourselves with the legal requirements of each sector, because there are some sectors that are very, very specific about how business must be conducted. And it's so important that all business people that want to trade in those specific sectors must educate themselves, because that is really a big thing. We've got a rather large group or population of aspiring entrepreneurs that don't necessarily know all the things that are required to run the business that they want to run. And that's so important. It's very important that when you register your business, you educate yourself on how your business ought to be run. What does the law say about how you must run your business in that sector that you want to trade in? It's really very important that creative people know that their ideas can be protected. Your protection starts at the point of submission. From the day you submit that application, your idea is protected. And the reason and the importance thereof is really that no one can claim rights over your idea. No one can claim rights over your business name or your product name. Let me not call it a business name. Let me call it a product name. For example, if you decide to call your company Tripod, for example, or Trident or whatever, and Trident is, for example, a shipping company, and you've created the logo for Trident, and you want to protect the name Trident because you're going to trade at a global level because you're in the logistics or maritime business. What that does is no one in that sector anywhere, or even in this country only, depending on the level at which you apply for protection, can actually take Trident as a business name in the same sector. They can't. If, for example, you're a ship maker and you decide to use the same name, so the mold that you use, the designs that you use for your business, the designs that you use that make your business unique to only you, is really what distinguishes you in terms of your logo or your company name, or the way you build your ships, your method of construction, your method of putting the different parts of the ship together, your method of designing the ship, the entire ship, in its entirety. If you protect those ideas, those methods, those that logo or that sign, that symbol, it is only you who has the right to use that name. You are the only one. You will be protected. No one else can use that name. No one else can build the ships the way you do until you say, okay, I only want to protect it for so many years, and then it becomes available for the market to use. It's so important because there's so many brilliant Namibian ideas out there, but we don't know that we should be protecting them. We don't know that our Namibian ideas are valid. Our Namibian ideas add, to the world, and that there are people out there waiting for us as Namibians to bring our ideas forward, our solutions. So it's so important that all creatives must at all times try to have conversations with us, try to have conversations with the associations that they fall under, whether it's, the Film Commission or the Arts Commission, or, that it's so important. It's very important that all of these global, or not global, but body groups really share as much information. And BIPA is always available to support the arts. We're always available to partner with the arts, to protect the arts, because we are the custodian of intellectual property. And the main stakeholder is any and every person. But the person who ought to benefit from this is the person who comes up with the idea and the family of that person. So it's only right that we protect these ideas, and that we bring it to help this person protect it at a global stage as well. We help people nurture their ideas, develop their ideas, to make sure that Namibian ideas are also protected. And it's so important. So we can't overlook that. And it's really one of those things that we pride ourselves in. So in terms of raising awareness about, your rights as a business person or a creative, and we have a lot of ads that are going out. We have a lot of stakeholder engagements that we conduct. We also do a lot of road shows, and these are really to raise awareness, and we try to go to as many regions as possible. We also try to attend as many of the trade fairs and expos as possible to raise awareness. We have a website, we've got a social media page. We also partner with a lot of stakeholders. For example, in the creative arts, it would be the Arts Council and the Film Commission. And then on a continental level, it would be the Africa Regional Intellectual Property Office. At a global level, it's the World Intellectual Property Office. What we try to do is really to create that connection between national protection and international protection. And then in terms of business law, we're currently going from region to region. I think we are towards the end of our law reform, but we're looking to change and improve our business law to make it easy for people to conduct business in the country, but to also update all our processes to to today and what we anticipate trading and submissions of information would look like in the future. So we're currently doing that right now, and even at any point after the sessions are concluded, anyone can approach any of the staff members to ask questions. But we also have, an email inbox, a public email inbox where clients can forward our queries. Again, we've got our social media pages. We also have our website, and we've got staff all over the country. We're busy. Planning towards opening more regional offices to create more national presence. But we've got our key stakeholder, which is the Ministry of Industries, Mines and Energy, that has regional offices all over the country. This was formerly known as the Ministry of Trade offices in every region. They are our agents on the ground. They are assisting clients by receiving BIPA documentation along with proofs of payment, to register businesses, to submit amendments, to submit annual duties. And so you can also use that office to collect to request and collect your good standing documents, for example. So we are really trying to create and spread presence all over the country to meet every stakeholder. I know there are some regions where we even work with the constituency office because of the remoteness of the locations. So we try as far as possible to really engage our clients as far as possible. Again, we are a very young institution. We only started trading or operating as a state-owned enterprise in 2017, or from 2017 onwards. So we're quite young. There's a lot we are learning. There's a lot that we're picking up, but we're always willing to learn. We're always willing to have conversations with staff. I think we had an engagement, for example, with the tourism board at the trade fair, where we were talking about, it takes a day to register a business. For example, if you come in, you can do your name reservation at our office right now and get it on the spot. You don't have to leave it and then come back. So, even just with understanding what that is, we'll talk about it later on in the interview, but it's really that we are here. We are here to help our clients register their business. We're also here to advise clients on what would work, because again, you've got a lot of people that are registered, and the names might be similar. So we also advise on similarity in how to slightly adjust your name, or to propose an alternative name altogether to just get the client to incorporate. So we are here. You can reach us at our head office. We've got presence here in Windhoek, in Walvis Bay, in Ongwediva. We have a website. It's www.bipa.na. We also have a public query email address, which is info@bipa.na. We have social media pages, so you can get us on X, Instagram, and Facebook. We've got a YouTube channel where we upload a bit of our content, but a lot of our latest and current information we really try and spread either via email directly to the clients, on our website, and then on our social media channels as well. We also incorporate our media partners, because we also advertise on TV and have interviews on TV. We've got radio adverts as well. So we try to create as much presence and communicate as much of our information as far as possible. And it's so important to do so because, again, BIPA services is a national product, and it's a product of national concern. So it's quite important that we really try and reach out to as many business owners as possible, and try and communicate everything as clearly and as simply as possible. I think that is really our newest challenge. I think what's really important for any business owner, regardless of the sector that they go in, is that they really study the market they want to trade in. Any expert businessman or any industry leader will tell you the same. Study your market, understand your market, master your market. It's what gives a lot of businesses longevity. It's not just about making profit immediately, and sometimes you won't make a profit for a very long time until you master your market. You need to understand your trends for the sector you're trading in. You need to understand the dynamics of the market. You need to understand what you contribute and the value or the size of what you contribute to the market you're going to trade in. So for any startup business that wants to scale upwards, any startup business that wants to understand how to maintain or sustain themselves for the long run, you will need to study and understand your market and master it based off of what it is you give, and the volume or the size of what you contribute towards your sector is going to give you the insights you need for longevity in business. My favorite part about technology is really that not only is it accessible to everyone, but that you can make your systems easy for anyone to understand, and the speed at which you can update your information is so quick. So from a BIPA perspective, in terms of technological technological upgrades, we are working towards building a new system that will not only process our business processes and lodgements, but clients will have access to the system and will be able to update their information themselves. And in addition to that, we will be working towards making the sharing of this system easy, so clients will be able to understand what is required of them in layman's English. So we'll be translating our law into simple English as well, which I absolutely love, because I'm a firm believer of the fact that all laws, anything regarding what impacts any citizen in this country, ought to be easy to understand in simple English. And that's powerful, because knowledge and applied knowledge is power. So we will be upgrading our systems. We will be going paperless. We will be transitioning out of paper-based submissions, and clients will be uploading all of their information onto a system, and anyone can access it from anywhere in the country, for as long as they have as long as they are registered on the system, and they can and then they just apply the information for each and every company. That not only makes it puts the responsibility on clients to make sure that whatever they share with us on the system is correct and up to date, but it takes away a lot of the complaints and a lot of the challenges observed. You know, when you're dealing with paperwork, people lose things, there's human error, someone mistypes something. So if there's a mistake, it's on the client side and not on our side. We will then just be doing verifications. What I'm also really excited about is that we're really closing the net in terms of our partner stakeholders. So say, for example, you're a company that owns fleets. If you change your name, and you're registered with NATIS, with the company registration documentation, all of that information, will be bouncing between NATIS and BIPA, and NATIS will then be sitting with the latest information. Same with the banks. Same, with the tourism board, for example, where if you've registered a hotel and you want to change the name or you want to add activities, the updates will bounce between BIPA and the tourism board and any other stakeholder that's involved. For example, NAMRA as well, where each entity's system will have notifications about the changes made in real time. And I think that is quite powerful, because now we can share information across the board. No one is waiting for a document or a file to be found for it to be shared. Clients can access their own information, their own client file from a cloud, things like that. So I really love that. The other plus side is, as a country, we're going to grow into a space where cybersecurity, understanding, anti-malware practices and protection of cyber information and personal information, all of that, private information and the sharing of that information, or the availability of that information, will now start gaining some kind of traction in terms of the laws as well, where we start determining, okay, a company name and registration number is public information, but maybe the owner's ID number, where the owner lives, the person's cell number, those things are private information that no one ought to have access to, and that's currently not something that is being looked at. So it would be quite exciting, quite intriguing to learn. It will be quite interesting to also help sort of craft the laws around that, because we deal with a lot of personal sensitive information. I mean, both in the country and globally. And I think also, international registries are also looking, to share the same information, because Namibia is hosting a lot of, companies that are also registered in other countries. And we could also be, getting real-time information. For example, when the company gets deregistered in another jurisdiction, that we get that notice and then we just follow through, because the company can't trade here if it was registered in another country before being incorporated here, and it gets deregistered there. Then we need to also then respond by actually deregistering the company as well. So it's going to be quite interesting. Who knows, we might also continue using QR codes for our stakeholder engagements. Like I don't really like, for example, personally, I don't really like doing attendance lists. I like having a QR code on display, then everyone who's in attendance just scans the code, and those who then don't have a QR code compatible phone will then complete on a form, but then it will be a small handful compared to everyone else. But it's small things like that. Even doing things like virtual stakeholder engagements instead of just, in-person stakeholder engagements in one location. Sometimes entities don't have the means or the presence in all over the country. And so a middle ground is always to have stakeholder engagements, the same number of in-person engagements as virtual engagements, just to make sure that everyone across the country also has the opportunity at a pre-communicated date to ask questions, to hear what's the latest, to understand how things will be done from here on out, and then taking it from there. So it's really exciting. There's a lot that we can do in terms of technology. There's a lot we want to do. There's a lot that we want to try out, and we're really looking forward to that. And what I also really love is that we'll be working with a lot of our partner stakeholders to sort of spread presence, to sort of also spread collaboration. So it will not just be, one entity doing everything alone, but really in partnership with a lot of the other stakeholders to get as many of our clients in the know as possible. So that's really exciting, if you ask me. I think one thing that I would advise any entrepreneur to do consistently without fail is keeping up with their legal responsibilities. If the bank requires you to submit a document every year, you don't have to do it when it's due. You can do it in advance and just keep it on file or soft copy, and then just reprint the same document until anything is changed. Same with your tax requirements, same with social security, same with if you have a direct regulator. It's so important to stay on top of these things. And honestly, many times it feels like it's just added admin. But once, we digitize these things, these are things that you will still need to stay on top of as a business. So make sure to understand and even if you outsource the function, the admin function or the accounting function, even if that is the case, make sure that you know what you are giving to this person to submit and that you know that it's submitted. Always make sure. Sometimes we find that we do things at the speed of trust without follow-up. A lot of entities give you some form of evidence of submission. So it's good to always keep documentary evidence of that, because one day when a mistake is made, you have evidence over the years to keep on file, and by law you're supposed to keep a lot of your documents for at least 7 years before you can burn them, right? So it's very important to always, even if you outsource the function, to always keep track of your submissions, to complete your own documents, to understand where it's being done, why it's being done. You might not have to agree, but it's important to know what your responsibilities are as a legal person, and to submit these documents on time. So you can do them whenever you're free, with your time, where you can apply your mind, you can ask questions to your service provider or to the staff members, so that people can just assist you in the completion of the form. Even if you outsource it, you can always double check the information that is being submitted, so that you know that you don't end up being charged with claims of, for example, tax evasion or non-compliance, or not even ignorance, but just doing doing things wrong the entire time and submitting it wrong without actually correcting, even though you've been notified that it's wrong. So it's very important that we are very careful about that, because a lot of our laws actually have penalties for the submission of the wrong information. So we must make sure that even if we don't understand, even if we don't agree with certain things that are our legal responsibility, we still need to know that it is a legal responsibility. It's not an opinion matter. It's something we must do to ensure that you as a business remains credible and that your information can be trusted. In some countries, once you are flagged as a non-compliant entity, you lose business immediately. Your contracts become void. You can be deregistered. You can lose your license to trade, things like that. So it's very important that all of us as businesses need to know what our legal responsibilities is. And I think we cannot stress that enough. You don't have to do it all yourself. You can outsource the function, but please know what you're supposed to do. It is your personal responsibility. And that is a priority that I would like to emphasize to anyone. And I would encourage everyone to always try and make that a priority, that it's something that you do every year, and you make a list of them. You even keep track or list the deadlines so that you know when things are due, but that you make sure things are done before the deadline so that you are not stuck in the queue on the last minute.